Alright, in this video we're going to look at 3 different exercise types for back strength and straight arm strength. I'm going to go straight into the exercises so you can see how they look and get right into them if that's what you want to do. But if you stick around to the end of the video, I'll go into some more detail about why I think these exercises are good and what they're good for. So the first exercise we have is an isometric hold and a front lever tuck. This is good for back strength if you're working on front levers. But even if you aren't working toward front levers, this is still a good way to develop your back strength. Grip the bar about shoulder width apart. Ideally, place your hands on top of the bar in a false grip. Ideally, you won't do these exercises on a barbell. You'll do them on a fixed bar that's not going to rotate. So from a hanging position, curl up and tuck your knees to your chest. At the same time that you're doing that, push your head and shoulders back away from the bar so that you rotate into this position with your back facing towards the floor and your knees tucked tightly towards your chest. The harder version of this is a front lever advanced tuck, where the tuck position is loosened up a bit so that your knees are aligned vertically above your hips. This moves more of your leg mass away from your shoulders. Anytime we shift our body mass away from our shoulders, front lever positions become harder. Now, isometrics are good for developing strength, but only around the joint angle that you're training in. If you only care about unlocking a front lever, you could spend most of your time training isometrics, but if you have other goals, it might be a good idea to include some variation in your training. That's where the rest of the exercises in this video come in. The rest of the exercises we'll look at have some movement happening so that you'll develop strength across a broad range of joint angles and have a bigger stimulus for muscle growth as the muscles go through a large change in length with these exercises. The easiest front lever eccentric is done in the tuck position, the same position we looked at for isometric holds, but you'll jump all the way up to an inverted position where you're completely upside down and then lower yourself back down slowly under control. Once you're upside down, you'll want to stick out your chest and pull your back straight by pulling your shoulders back and down. You might feel like you do a good job of achieving this position, but you'll probably be surprised by how much effort you need to put into pulling your shoulder blades back and down in order to actually achieve a straight position. I recommend videoing yourself or having someone video you so you can see how well you're actually achieving that straight position. In this rep, I thought I had a straight back, but you can see that I was really still quite rounded. You'll also want to straighten your neck so that your chin isn't tucked. Your head and neck are the only counterweight that you have in front levers that contribute to making the movement easier. The further your head sticks away from your shoulders, the more assistance it gives you and the easier the movement becomes. So don't tuck your chin forward, let your head and neck be aligned with the rest of your back. A harder eccentric that you can try is a half tuck, where one leg remains in the tucked position while the other leg moves further away from your torso. You can keep the leg bent or you can straighten the leg, but know that straightening the leg is the harder version. Either way, you'll come down faster in the half tuck as more rotational force is applied to your shoulder when your body is extended further. Make sure you still come down under your own control. Don't just drop down. Another thing to be aware of once you start doing exercises in a half tuck is that your glutes will also need to be contracting pretty hard to maintain a straight position and keep your hips from dropping. The last exercise type is still working on back strength and straight arm strength, but this one is a good option if you just don't feel like going upside down today, or you're not ready for some of the other movements. If you haven't got the confidence to do them yet, this is a good alternative. This is just a straight arm pull down using some cables and a straight bar. There are a few different positions you can try this in. You can do it standing or seated, and you can play around with how far away from the cable you position yourself. Changing these variables will change the angle that the cable is pulling on the bar, so it will feel quite different even with the same weight. Experiment with some different positions and angles to find one that challenges you, but still allows you to move through a long range of motion. Okay, those are all of the exercises we're going over today. If you're still here and you're wondering why you should do these exercises and what's so great about them, here is my thoughts. Firstly, it's always fun and interesting to have some variation in training. Doing the same stuff all the time gets a bit boring, and these exercises, or working toward unlocking a skill like the front lever, breaks the monotony of doing a lot of similar training. Secondly, even if you have very good pull-up strength, straight arm strength work is another challenge entirely. You can go a very long way to developing back strength and back muscle with diligently working toward progressing these movements. I like to think that our training isn't limited by what we're doing, it's limited by what we aren't doing. Including a little bit of straight arm work could be the little bit of change that you need in your training to suddenly see your strength or physique develop again after a bit of a plateau. Or it could just be training that strengthens your joints so that they're more resilient. Lastly, straight arm exercises place a lot of demand on your triceps. It's your triceps that keep your arm locked out in a straight position while doing these exercises, which makes them both a good way to train tricep strength and a good way to avoid placing too much load on your biceps if you have an injury of your biceps muscles or tendons, but you still want to train your back. This is exactly what I did when I injured both of my biceps doing rope climbs and needed a way to still train back while giving my biceps a big rest from more typical back work like pull-ups and rows as I gradually increased the load that my biceps could tolerate.